Hello, I'm Harry Riley. Welcome to Harry's Tales. This is called The Shadow, a short story by Harry Riley. This story is fiction, and resemblance to anyone living or dead is coincidental. Sam Randall was an assassin, known as the Shadow. The national press had built up this reputation of a slippery shadow who had successfully evaded all attempts at capture, and to date he was credited with 6 murders. These ranged from a prominent lawyer, 3 civil servants, a member of Parliament, and even a High Court judge. Something had to be done, and fast. He was making a mockery of the police. A committee of top anti-crime specialists was formed to bring about the capture of this man who was creating so much fear and mayhem. The committee was headed by Barney Grant, ex-Special Branch, and now on permanent secondment to the government's secretive Home Security Department. Barney Grant came straight to the point at their first meeting and asked Tom Birchall, the committee profiler, to illustrate what they already knew. Tom cleared his voice. This man is a loner. He works to a set pattern and chooses his killing points very carefully. He's a confident shot who likes to get up close and personal to his victims. And from the accuracy of his instant death results, we think he's ex-military. No one else would have this standard of success. We also believe he hangs around after a killing long enough to spot any potential witnesses coming forward. He's cool and calculating, and with his ability to blend in with the crowd, he fits the profile of that most rare breed of professionals. We also suspect he has the ability to change his appearance because a detailed study of closed-circuit television footage from previous killings has failed to pick him out. Barney Grant interrupted at this juncture to ask if there were any questions so far. Detective Chief Inspector Eric Formby of Lancashire's highly regarded Regional Crime Squad wanted to know if any links had been made between the killings or their victims, such as sex or blackmail. "And you're thinking behind this being politically inspired?" asked Tom Birchall. "Why, yes, of course." "Good question. We'll get on to that one immediately," said Barney. What about setting up a money trap to wheedle him out?" asked Janet Barker, Junior Minister, reporting directly to the Home Secretary. "Yes, we'll look into that too," said Barney. "Now, any more questions?" "I have a question." This quiet voice came from Angus Murray, ex-Special Services and ex-mercenary, and now a close associate of Tom Birchall. "Well?" "I don't want to tell my grandmother how to suck eggs," which really meant he did, and which brought out the first chuckle of the meeting, and effectively broke the ice among the members. "But have we considered that this so-called shadow might possibly be a woman?" "Go on." "Well, in the military we now have some strong-minded young female officers who can outshoot and outsmart a lot of their male colleagues, and are determined to get in on the action, right at the front line." "Well said," echoed Janet Barker. "Been thinking much the same thing myself." Barney smiled and agreed they should take a closer look at the TV footage, to see if any unknown women were about at the time. "We do know that each of the victims was killed by the same weapon, a Belgian FN 49 9mm automatic, as issued to police and security forces. It has a double-action trigger mechanism to correct any misfiring. The big drawback with this weapon, from a woman's point of view, is that it has a heavy trigger pull. We mustn't make false assumptions, though, on account of this." And with that, he wound up their first meeting, and a date was set for the next, in 2 weeks' time, to assess progress. They each knew another murder would soon take place, as the killings were all recent, and the last one, that of the judge, being only a month previously. Sam Randall's new girlfriend, Tracy, was worried about her partner. Sam was an unusually fit and healthy person, but had developed a racking cough of late, and Sam insisted, as tactfully as she could, that a visit to a doctor was called for. Sam replied there was no need to worry, and that it was just seasonal congestion. Tracy knew very little about her lover's background, except that until 5 years ago Sam had been living in the Scottish Highlands and had come down to London on urgent family business, found a suitable flat and stayed there. Sam was not at all happy about the pollution in the capital and was determined to return to the beautiful clear atmosphere of the Scottish Highlands as soon as this next assignment was finished. It would be the last one, and Sam was sure that Tracy would also be pleased to put London behind for a quiet life among the simple crofters. This final task was to execute a prominent government figure as he attended the Veterans' Day parade outside Westminster Abbey on Armistice Day. Sam already had a copy of the Order of Service illicitly obtained from the printers. During the service, the government minister would read a verse for the dead. A bugler would then play the last post. This assignment for Sam would be a little trickier, as there would be many more Secret Service personnel mixing with the crowd. Sam was supremely confident of performing this mission and getting clean away. The only thing that might give Sam away could be this annoying choking cough that seemed to come from deep down, inside lungs that were probably damaged from too much heavy smoking. Perhaps Tracy was right, and a visit to the doctor might not be a bad idea after all. This next killing was to be the closure of a bad business. Sam's father had been a clever inventor and had come up with a wonderful new weapon that could give the British Army a 20-year lead over the rest of the world. He'd spent the best part of 15 years working away in the private grounds of their farm in the Highlands, well away from prying eyes or near neighbours. And it was up there in the hills, in their leisure moments, that Sam had been taught the art of stalking deer, getting right up close to several bucks. The new invention, firing radioactive cluster bombs fitted to a helicopter, had been mishandled during trials, and several deaths had occurred. The helicopter crashed, and the resulting explosion, a small island testing site, a no-go area for at least 100 years. The government had panicked and thrown Sam's father to the wolves of the world's press. Several top civil servants had made public statements covering their own backs, and Sam's father, already suffering from undiagnosed radiation suffering, had been demonised, falling into a deep depression that resulted in suicide, whilst in prison for criminal negligence. Sam had taken it very hard and was determined to make the people responsible pay with their own lives. The fateful day arrived, and Sam, dressed in religious vestments, showed the fake pass and mingled with the special invited guests, very close to the politician who was to die, and who had been particularly vocal in condemnation of the inventor. The service was well underway, and then it was time for the verse to be read. It was a short verse called The Voice of the Dead, and would last but a moment or two. That would signal the beginning of the 2-minute silence, and at the start of the last post, the shot would ring out. Just at the vital moment, Sam felt a cough coming on, and it suddenly exploded in a violent attack that had everyone's attention. The coughing fit was so unexpected and so harsh in its intensity that it caused Sam to be carried away to a nearby ambulance, where clothes were swiftly loosened, revealing the loaded gun. Sam was quickly anaesthetised and whipped away under police guard. The next day Sam awoke in the hospital bed, with Tracy and a doctor in attendance. An armed police officer was stationed just outside the door. Helping Sam to sit up, the doctor produced a chest X-ray, showing a pair of badly damaged lungs. He came straight to the point. "Sorry, Samantha, but we found a shadow on your lungs, and it's terminal cancer, I'm afraid." Sam looked at Tracy, who gave her the next bit of bad news. She was an undercover policewoman brought in to gather evidence. If Sam had produced a gun, marksmen were under orders to shoot to kill, but it hadn't been necessary after all. The shadow had finally been trapped by her own shadow. End.